Welcome back live at Drew's house, another edition. Hope everybody's doing okay out there. Drew Moholland, my wife Sarah Conway. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Drew.
What is new?
Nothing much.
Nothing. Pandemic life. We just got back from the beach. We did a dog day at the beach. We were saying how this is our favorite time of year at the beach because we can bring the dogs. I've never been a whole layout at the beach kind of person in the summertime anyway.
Yeah, no, me neither. Sometimes, but not
Okay.
like.
I'm kind of surprised because you're more of a still person. You always say I'm a little more all over the place.
Yeah, I'm not really either though.
Yeah.
I can lay out for a little bit, but I can't do the whole day at the beach.
You know what my favorite beach days are? I like when there's like something to do, like a volleyball game or something.
Yes.
You know, I need to be able to go do the volleyball, water, repeat. You know, rinse and repeat. Dogs, of course, are loving the beach. The dogs have not made an appearance on the show in a while. They've been pretty good lately, I will say.
Yeah.
I'm happy about that.
That's good.
It is good. We've had a lot of musicians on lately. I know you haven't been on all the shows, but have you been enjoying them?
Yes, I think they're great.
We had I really liked the one of the ones recently, and I've been thinking about them a lot because they keep popping up. This, I guess it's kind of the circles that I'm in. And you know how, I think the phones and the computers kind of listen to you once you're connected to one thing. Like I swear, the phone does listen to you, right? It gives you ideas.
Yeah, it definitely does. Even when you're not searching things, it hears what you're saying, I swear.
It's
and
spooky.
Then you have ads. It's kind of cool because I think a lot of people are annoyed by it. But then I'm like, oh yeah, I was looking for that, and it's right there on my phone.
For instance, what do you have? What recommendations have you had?
There was something where it was like I never searched anything. We just were talking about it, and then it just popped up. I feel like it was something related to the dogs, random. It was very random.
Did you say somebody was or was this one of your friends, or was this like a national story? But there was somebody was searching for water.
Oh yeah, it was on a radio show.
They were talking about it on a radio show?
They were talking about it on a radio show, or someone was talking about jugs of water, which is so random, and then all of a sudden, and they weren't talking to their phone, Siri, or anything like that, and then all of a sudden they were getting ads for jugs of water.
That's very funny. What brought me to that story though is because now I'm kind of in these circles of these that the New England Musicians Relief Fund, and I've been thinking about them a lot lately because that was kind of tough listening to we had a couple of the artists on and talking about the struggle and how they're trying to help all these artists through. And I actually saw a couple other, this is kind of the cool part, a couple other artists that we've actually had on the show before say that they had actually benefited from the New England Musicians Relief Fund and how it was such a huge thing before the holidays and really going to help them get through some of these musicians that are struggling. So I don't know, just wanted to bring that back up again. Good job with the New England Musicians Relief Fund there.
Yeah, that was an awesome episode.
Oh, an awesome episode.
It was awesome.
Thank you.
I know they were very talented, and you don't realize how hard it is for those people. You know, everyone is talking about, a lot of other people who've lost their jobs and everything, but you don't really think about the musicians, restaurants, and, all that stuff. A lot of people hurting out there. It's
going to be a tough winter for restaurants, though.
Yeah, no, definitely restaurants are having it hard too, the small businesses, but.
Yeah, I was looking at that New York City, how they shut down all the dining, indoor dining, and I don't know, it'd be interesting to see. I know that it's going to be hard for a lot of them to get through.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if that kind of changes New York, I can't imagine it changing the face of New York City too much, but think about how much New York City is restaurants and bars, and that's part of what makes it so cool. What happens if even 20% of them shut down? That's a huge loss to New York City. It does make it feel different. So hopefully most of those restaurants can get through. Same thing in Boston. New York City happened to shut down, but we here in Massachusetts, we rolled back though too. We went back in our rollout of the phases. So we're stepping back, which I think is probably going to be this case all across the country with the winter approaching and this surge, and vaccines are right around the corner, but I think it's going to get pretty much everybody's telling you it's going to get uglier, and maybe the worst of it will be right before this vaccine this winter. So I don't know. We've talked about that a little bit, right? Would you take the vaccine? You said you trust the science?
Yeah.
I think I would too.
Yeah, I think the big question mark is just because the science is so recent, you don't have any long-term studies and stuff like that. But I think I should probably do research on this before I say anything. But isn't that what all the vaccines have been like? People have to be the first ones to try it.
Yeah, And in Britain, they already rolled out the vaccine, the Pfizer one, a lot. So
Yeah, so
there were it was a little scary. I know it wasn't a huge deal. And actually, if you really dug into the paperwork, like the FDA did their work on it and said there will be some, or could be some side effects, specifically with people with allergies. And like, I remember that the next day after people, you have allergies.
Yeah.
The next day, 2 people that got the Pfizer vaccine the first time in Britain came down with like bad allergic reactions. And people were like freaking out, and they're going to be fine.
2 people?
2 people.
Out of how many got the
I'm not
vaccine?
sure out of how many. It was that initial rollout, but that is scary initially. But so I think they'll do their research. Today, very excited. I have a guest who I've never met before. He's coming to us from, I believe, I've never met him before. I believe he's going to be coming to us from his home of Israel.
Oh, wow.
He's a legendary blues musician. Andy Watts is going to be joining us. I'm excited about this. He's considered to be Israel's ambassador of the blues.
That's a big title.
That is a big title.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough one to live up to. But Andy is obviously talented as can be. I've never met him. A viewer of this show, a friend and a man in the music industry, told me he thought he would be great for the show. And I said, well, let's throw him on. I trust your judgment. Thanks for your support. And let's talk to Andy Watts. So we're going to do that. Perfect. You're going to get out of here? What are you doing?
Yeah,
you going for a run?
I am going to go for a run. Yep.
It's exciting.
My only opportunity today, so I'm going.
You taking no dogs, 1 dog, or 2 dogs?
Probably just 1.
Mm-hmm. The younger one.
Yeah, the older one he doesn't have the same spunk he used to. He pretty much lays down instead of running.
How many miles are we doing?
I usually do 3.
3?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, enjoy your run.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Andy Watts coming up next. All right, we bring in my guest, Andy Watts, joining us first time on the show. Andy, how are you? Thank you so much for doing this, man.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Drew.
Where are we speaking to you from exactly?
Well, very close to Tel Aviv in Israel.
All right, the ambassador of the blues. I was just telling my wife off the before you came on here. That's quite a title to live up to. They call you. My goodness, what a legend we have in our presence here.
Well, I'll tell you what. That's for the last 15 years. I've been bringing a lot of major blues artists to Israel from United States mainly. Purpose was, of course, to widen the audience for the blues and also for us, self-fulfilling purpose, because we will have more people listening to the blues, more people coming to the shows. So I've been bringing Jolie Walker 3 times to Israel. Lucky Peterson, rest in peace, twice. Johnny Winter, rest in peace. Kenny Neal, of course, he's co-producing my album. Rick Estrin, we had a great time. He's on the album under his alias, Coasting Hank. Bernard Allison, among others. So over the years, I guess I paid my dues for the blues. And it was Rock and Blues magazine over in California that in a review called me the ambassador of the blues, and that, well, there's something to live up to.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk a little bit about the album in a bit, because I know it's let's get the elephant in the room out of the way here first. You are a musician, a working musician, doing all this stuff in a pandemic. What has it been like for you? Obviously, the whole world and musicians all across the world have been struggling a little bit. How has it affected you, your work, your life?
Well, the pandemic is a global thing. It's a very democratic pandemic because it's affecting everybody. Maybe we see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's not a train coming. It's a form of vaccine. Let's be hopeful that will probably take some time until you have this so-called herd immunity. However, my last live performance was in 11th of March this year. I've been using the time for, time for self-reflection. You have something happening that makes you to put in a lower gear, and see what you can do. And I've been very busy writing music I basically have a new album ready that I have. And of course, been very busy promoting my new album, Super Groove. that was released 4th of September all around the world.
So you're out. So Supergroove is still new, but now you have another album ready to go that you wrote in quarantine?
Yes, basically. Basically, you have to use your time. I think the secret in this is when you get something served on a plate like this, well, it's not that you can refuse to eat it. You have to find a way to digest it. And the way that I did was to try to use the time in a positive way, go through my amps, to go through all my guitars and try new things. And suddenly when you focus on that thing, suddenly the lyrics and the music just starting to flow. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to close it now. I'm just going to roll with the punches, go with the flow. And I got some nice music going that I'm, of course, not going to release now. I'm going to wait until we are way safely behind this Corona. But I'm going to work on it, take my time and to polish them and see how to arrange the songs.
I've seen so many of your performances over the years, and if you just somebody go YouTube some of your performances, you can just see how much it looks like you're enjoying being on stage. I can imagine. You say your last show is back in March. That's probably the longest you've gone without being on a stage in your whole life since being a career musician.
Yeah, pretty much so. It's been a very long break, when these things happen, I think the secret for many persons is just to try to look in a half full glass, try to think positive and use the time for something fulfilling, because it's not going to change overnight. We have, of course, it will come, the change will come. We don't have a clue how the world's going to look in 6 months, but probably it's going to look much better.
Supergroove, I guess it's probably been kind of cool for you because it's such a new release that you can kind of have you taken moments to just sit back in your living room and kind of listen to it again and again and say that was some good work?
Thanks for saying that. Yeah, actually, it's a good point you say, because when I did it as a matter of fact, when I was just wanted to decide the order of the songs on the album. For me, it was obvious that Supergroove's going to kick it off. All right, this is instrumental. Yes, it is, because this is what you normally do when you kick off a show, You need something that moves some air in the room, and it's an instrumental where you can showcase some of your band members as well, like the B3 Hammond, the baritone saxophone. But regarding the rest of the orders, I was actually sitting down and imagining driving on a lonely highway at night, and how would I like the songs to fall into place to make it a pleasant ride. And in the end, it was obvious to me I have to chill and low and cruise out with my tribute to Peter Green's Supernatural.
Outstanding. Again, we're joined here by Andy Watts, legendary blues musician. Do you remember that first time you picked up the guitar? Who introduced you to it? How did it all come about?
Well, everyone has his own. You always remember the first time, as I say. And I got into the blues by listening to tuning into American radio stations, and somehow there was weekly blues programs, and that the groove and the vibe and that thing that's just got into my system, and I got hooked on it. And listening to John Lee Hooker, to Stevie Ray Vaughan, to Hendrix, to Albert King, Freddie King, that's just changes you. And that made me pick up a 6-string. A friend of mine showed me a few basic chords, but I never took a lesson. I don't read music. I am probably breaking all the rules that possibly can be broken in music, but it works for me. And I don't feel I'm limited or anything. You put me in a kind of format or any kind of category. I just try to feel and play what I think makes sense to me. Always been like that.
Have you had, I'm sure you've had, all sorts of moments like this, but is there a moment that kind of jumps out at you that I can tell you love to just go with the flow, as you say, but maybe you're on stage with musicians that you're not used to playing with, and they say, get on up there, and it just turns into something completely different, and you turn into your Andy Watts self and put something real special on it that jumps to mind? Yeah,
well, I'll tell you something. Before shows, I don't think before the shows, and I think, what I'm going to play now, try to rehearse myself or remember licks. Sure, you have to stay true to the songs, what you're going to play, obviously. You have to know what you're going to do. But I like to go up and let the energy of the room, of the crowd and the band guide me, because I never play the same song live twice. I always, I try to go different things, and whatever happens now, I think that's to be a bit on the edge when you're playing. And what I found out over the years is that someone who really got it by nature, Peter Green, I'm much admiring, rest in peace, Peter Green. He had this ability to play less and say more. I mean, to have this phrasing. And I think with a year, I realized that you don't have to play all the time. You need to give some space. Let the other band members have something to say. Leave the stage with the crowd hungry, not that they're pleased that you are turning off your amplifier. That's a different attitude.
Absolutely, and that's what really makes concerts so cool, is it right? Sometimes you don't exactly know where they're going, and you're teetering on that edge. That's great.
Yeah, sort of. I don't want it to be that. Sure, I did of course. This album is made with my live band, plus some extremely talented vocalists. At least the guys I'm working with for years. I'm having a show called And It Was Some Blues on Fire. It's a very big R&B show, the biggest in Israel. It's a 9-piece band. It's a full horn section, trombone, baritone sax, trumpet, beats with Hammond, drums, bass, 2 vocalists. And the album was done with the purpose to have a big sound. But I try always to avoid to make something on an album that you cannot recreate live. So sure, the audience know this is going to be big sound, but I don't want them to think that everything will be sounding exactly like on the album. I try to change things live, depending on the live situation, so to say.
What's the biggest difference about playing live shows? Let's compare Israel to the United States. I'm sure you love both places, but they're different.
Oh yeah, in America the blues is in the system. The blues is like what you can say is something that people breathe. It's just there. Blues and rock and roll, because I consider myself to be sort of a fusion artist. I play blues rock. I play blues too. I don't play only traditional blues, but if I look at the audience reception is different. They're used to it. The questions that you were asking me in an interview are so different from what I would have doing interviews in Israel, because you have a background. This is something that in your system, the blues. And Israel is still something that is not on everybody's plate, you see. So the difference is that the audience is just with you from the first chord. The audience is just with you in America.
So when you're playing at home there, in Tel Aviv and around, is it almost like you're trying to win over and introduce a whole new audience some nights?
Yes, definitely. And it still is, because we are in the Middle East. I mean, you have many good reasons to play the blues. We can ask any president in America. Yeah, but it's still not something that it's not what you hear mainstream. It's not that I can tune any radio station in Israel and I will hear blues. No, I am. As a matter of fact, that's quite unique, I would say. I am almost on a daily basis on radio in Israel. But on the other hand, I've been lately maybe 50, 60, 70 times a day on the radio in America or in Europe. So it's just a different thing, something you have to learn to live with.
And like so many regions of the world, of course, as you said, the Middle East, there's a lot of pre-pandemic, of course, there's conflicts. There's do you let politics get into the blues at all? Because I know there is a natural, like you said, there's a lot to write about in the world. Do you go in that direction, or do you try to keep that separate?
I try to separate politics and blues. I made a statement on the album which was not for political purposes. I did dedicate the album to the city of Tel Aviv. Now, the reason I dedicated to Tel Aviv is over the years I had a pleasure and honor to bring some of the best blues artists in the world to come and perform with my band in Israel and record with me in the studio on my albums. And I wanted to point out that Tel Aviv is a very sophisticated, beautiful city on the shores of the Mediterranean. And that is something that's worth to visit. It's something that is like oasis in the Middle East for this kind of music and what I'm doing.
Fascinating. And we're joined here by Andy Watts, the great blues musician coming to us from Israel today. Fantastic of him to join the show. You're so established, Andy, and, all over the world, really. I wonder, I have a lot of musicians on this show from closer to home here. I'm coming to you from just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, and a great music hub, but so many of these musicians that are coming up and playing the bars, playing the clubs, playing the small theaters, have just had their momentum just absolutely stopped by this pandemic. They can try to do the virtual thing. It's just not the same as going out there and playing live. I wonder, what would your advice be to the young musician who has just really kind of down a little bit? No gigs, no shows, and momentum stopped.
I tell you, there is something very interesting happening this year. Some people say, 2020, it's only a few days left. We have a new year, but this is going to be with us. The repercussions going to be with us. I would say the good news is, let's say 6 months ago, Fender and Gibson, very nervous looking on what's going to happen following the pandemic. Listen, we have to fire 30% of our workforce. And what are we going to do? Well, lo and behold, here comes the audience that are home. Fender and Gibson never sold as many guitars in the history of this company like this year. So that means there's a lot of people out there who still believe that guitar is a good and important tool and ingredient for future music, obviously. And what I think that the musician's going to do is not to lose track of being an artist and being unique. I am much more impressed by a person who plays the music and the instruments and find his own style, his own sound, and being himself, than someone who can play the solo of Stairway to Heaven note for note. That's been done. It's not interesting. If you do covers, and I try to be true to myself also when I do, because I do, of course, covers on my albums too, which is legitimate in the blues business, So I try to put my own signature and my own touch on it, so it suits the music formula, and it still sounds like me. It still sounds like it's part of my band. Copy paste is the wrong way to go, in my opinion.
I think a lot of us will agree with that. And so you're actually kind of thinking that there may be some more guitar players and maybe some kind of new sounding guitar players coming out of this pandemic, just with all the time.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of new guys ready to pick up where a lot of us, unfortunately, of the great heroes have left. And I'm very happy to hear that, because I am fortunate to have a lot of guitars that are picked up on the way, some old vintage guitars. There's also the sound for me. The sound of the guitar is essential in the album, because I believe that first you must have a good sound, and then you should worry about what you're going to play. I mean, sound is so essential. And as a guitar player, I think that the attitude to me that I have to guitars, you're just a caretaker. You don't own this instrument. You're fortunate that during this time you can play it, but it has a life on its own. And I think that these instruments are so beautiful, so I never keep them in the cases. I always have them out so I can look on it, they inspire me, and when I see them, they inspire me, I pick them up, I play, and this is how this inspiration is driving me to write more music.
Yeah, and obviously you make covers your own and all that, but I mean, blues musicians, like every musician in the world, they're always, learning from other artists too, right? And taking bits and pieces.
Oh yeah, you're inspired. I would say inspiration. Sure, you can go in and say, you can go into many people today, many of the top players in the world. They have listened to all the guys. They have made it their own. They have licks. Sure, they have licks. If you look originality, you can go back to B.B. King. Sure, I would have a lot of B.B. King in my licks. Yes, I do, but I don't want to copy exactly. Freddie King, sure. John Lee Hooker, that vibe for sure. Albert King, without a doubt.
What is it about blues too? Because I'm sure you have a love for a lot of other different genres of music as well. But what is it about the blues that just immediately hit you in the soul? This is where I need to be. This is what I live for.
I think blues is a state of mind. It's something in it. If I would quote Mr. Howlin' Wolf, who said, "Listen, the blues is when you cannot pay the rent. Everything else is music." So, but I think that the blues is something that gives you that freedom. Because if you say to me, if you mean I'm going to set out the parameter, what defines the blues, I will say you win, because I will not even go into argument about it. Because if you listen to my album, I will not be put in a box, like Henrik said. You cannot put me in a box. In this album, you hear blues, blues rock, psychedelic, some funky, some jazzy things, and I just have to try to make that work out. So blues, you can say the hardcore. There's some saying that the blues must be a 12-bar, 3-chord progression. I don't agree with that. I think that one of the challenges for the blues today, involving the young players that we spoke about, is to attract a younger audience to the blues that will pick it up and just carry on the torch by staying honest and true to the sources and the beginning of the blues, but you have to make it contemporary too, to make it relevant.
Mm. And it struck me earlier, you said you're on the radio every day in Israel pretty much, but it's funny here in the United States, it's you hear a lot of complaints about the radio because it's kind of the same old and kind of this kind of not same old, it's the same new or whatever. This kind of there's a lot of stuff that sounds the same, and a lot of especially a lot of the newer artists that are coming out with this is a very broad brush. There's great artists out there as well, but the radio is definitely you struggle to find those unique places on the radio, and, like you used to. And I wonder, what are your thoughts? I don't know how much you get to listen to American radio, but what are your thoughts on kind of where the music industry has gone in that regard?
Oh, the industry has gone to very much time. If you look at the time today, before if I would have been in the 70s, you went to studio, it's the art that is important. One song, there could be 2 songs on one side. It's creative. People took the time. They listened. They went to a concert. They listened. They're in it. Today, it's 3 minutes. It has to catch something very quickly. You have to catch people's attention, because it's like people sitting in front of the television. They're zapping the channels because they have options. They're every 5 minutes, people reaching for the phones to see maybe someone was liking my post on Facebook. Everything is fast, 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 fast. Do I think that slow food is the secret? No, I think that you have to find a compromise for the things to develop. The music business today, I would say, it's about flash in the pan. And one of the things that also is involved in that are all the reality shows. Suddenly you're looking at reality shows. I don't say all about music. You have reality shows with the Star, I think Star is Born or X Factor. You have many others in any genre, in survival techniques, in whatever. The reality television has something to do with that too, I think.
Andy Watts joining us. So Super Groove is this album. It's a upbeat kind of electric album. It gets you moving. Like you said, you drive on that highway, you can get going, feeling pretty good.
Yeah. But, that was the purpose, just to hit it from the first minute, boom.
But I do wonder, what's it? And obviously, I'm sure you'd love to be taking a lot of these songs on the road right now with you. But in the history of making an album and then taking those songs out live, they don't always. Sometimes there's a whole recreation that goes with that, right? The way that you laid down a track in the studio, it doesn't always work live as is. Tell me about that process of bringing these songs that are your babies out on the road.
One thing that I try to is that I can always play the songs live that I make on the album. Sure, if this would be Pink Floyd, I would make probably 250 takes on each guitar solo, tag it in, because the guitar solo is so elaborate that the song would not be the same if I don't play that song and that solo exactly note for note the same every night, correct? Now, when I'm recording albums, the most important thing for me is to be in the zone, to feel the power inside you, to see that light, that pass, that is just follow, because I don't have a clue what I'm going to play when I put the headphones on. I simply roll with it. I know more or less where I'm going to go, but I normally say stop after the third take. because the rest of the takes is only going to affect you and listen to see, and you're going to listen to your previous mistakes. So I think one of the things when you do the album is to have the confidence. I think that your state of mind is one of the important factors when you're going to record. I'm talking about guitar solos now, not arranging the music. I'm talking about you as when you can put icing on the cake, when you go in and do something. Now for the song as such, sure, my songs has a lot of elements of horn sections, B3 Hammond. If I go live, yes, to make it sound big, I need to have a 9-piece band with me, without a doubt. It will not sound the same on a trio, for sure, for sure.
No doubt. And I wonder, as you think about live shows going forward, do you have any fears? And I've asked pretty much every musician who comes on this show, I've asked them this year, because we are living in unprecedented times. Some are dealing with it better than we are. You seem to be doing just fine. You're taking some time to reflect, write music. I mean, you're dealing with it pretty well. But a lot of musicians are finding themselves lost. Do you fear the return of live music? Do you fear that that day of going back into a club might be too far away? Do you think people will trust it coming back? Do you have any fears of live music and the return down the road here?
That's a very good question. Yes, I'm wondering how comfortable will I be when they have developed this vaccine in the shortest possible time in the history of mankind, that it's going to work. I'm in a room with 400 individuals that I don't know what they're doing, and how comfortable am I going to be on the stage playing, and how comfortable is the audience going to be coming into the room, sitting in the crowded room, looking for it. That's one thing. The other thing I want to say, which I think is that the musicians today that are still trying to find them, I don't think you should never give up, because this is in your system. I'm saying that to the musicians. I think it's not healthy for them to have something in you and stop it. But it's not something that they should be ashamed of. Anybody should be ashamed of to go up and find a daytime job, something to do with. You have something you want to do. There's a bigger thing happening. Put it at the side. Take a job. Go through it. Don't put down your guitar, but go through this situation by finding an alternative source of income. That's something that many people, I'm sure, are already doing, because it's anybody's guess when this music business all around the world is going to be back to pre-corona times, obviously.
And you come to us from Tel Aviv. I wonder, what is the, again, broad brush, but what is the outlook? How do the people there view the United States and the handling of this pandemic, I wonder?
Well, unfortunately, I think a lot of things when you go into this maybe has been a bit more politics involved. In Israel too, by the way. Many decisions have been based on politics and not on the general well-being on the population. Unfortunately, I think there's something that goes around the world. I think in America too, I think in Israel too, we are in partial lockdown. Well, Pfizer's approval by the FDA have opened the paths for vaccinations that are going to start next week. The target is that the whole population of Israel will be vaccinated by the end of January. I don't, you never know. Let's be hopeful. Regarding America, I think that when you see the scale, I mean, America is just slightly bigger than Israel, just a little bit. so the scale that you have there is enormous. And of course, when that is starting to roll down the slope like an avalanche, that is, of course, it's going to be bigger numbers and a bit more logistics to solve it.
Certainly is. It's a tough battle. Like you said, we're a big place, and we got a lot of different, a lot of states kind of been doing different things here throughout this. It has been a struggle. I know it's been really hard on the musicians. I love having you on, because not only do you have a new album out, I just love the idea that you have another one ready to go coming out of this and ready to hit that highway again rolling. That's fantastic, Andy Watts.
You gotta go for it, man. You gotta just be ready to shoot from the hip. You gotta take the things out that you have in the system. I think that as a musician, you should never stop believing, because when you're going up on the stage and you play with and believe, the audience feel that this guy is believing, even if you only play one note for 2 minutes like Neil Young, but he believes in it. So you believe him. He plays solos with one note, but he makes it, he believes what he's doing. So you believe what he's doing. That's art.
Does that make you a Neil Young fan?
I think that he made a lot of good things, but I mean, as a blues guitarist, I wouldn't hire him, put it that way. He writes beautiful music, but I just took him as an example that being individual, his sound, because when you hear him, you know it's Neil Young, because he has a musical identity. And I think that's one of the most important aspects as a musician. Find your musical identity.
Absolutely. Well said. Andy Watts, I always end the show with a little rapid fire. You got to say the first thing that comes to mind. Does that work for you? Quick answers?
Yes, we can go for that. One second before you say that, okay. I want to say that you asked me before about the album. The album is 43 minutes. It goes through a process, as you have seen, from super groove into the tune Living Hand to Mouth, which is with Rick Estring on harp, even though it says Coasting Hank. We go through to Straight Shooting Woman, which is a rocker, but with a horn section. And my good friend, Jolie Walker, is doing Burning Deep, which is a ballad. And we record everything here in Israel and send the music over to him. So he recorded everything there. Beautiful. In America, regarding the vocals.
We can pick it up as a holiday gift, and we can get it for the new year. I like that idea right there.
Yeah, man. Anyone who wants to listen to the album simply can go into www.andywattsguitarslinger.com. My label. I mean, I consider myself very fortunate as an Israeli blues artist to be signed on a major American blues label at Westtown in cooperation with Kenny Niels Boga. And they made a link on my website. You can hear the whole album, and you can also download it from Spotify, Apple, Amazon, you name it. Or visit me on Andy Watts Guitar Slinger Facebook, or check out all my clips on YouTube, for example.
There you go. All right. Fantastic. So here we go. Rapid fire. I'm going to ask you this one, right? This is kind of I like this question right off the bat. What's the best advice you ever got before going on stage, for taking your act on stage?
The best advice I was, it's not to overplay. Play every second note. Everything that you want to try to impress your audience, just cut it in half, and you're coming pretty much to the truth what the people really want to hear.
Beautiful. A young Andy Watts, who's the musician that he most looked up to? The guy that said, "I want to be in those shoes one day."
I know it's a cliche, but it's very hard not to say Hendrix. Once you hear, the first time you hear All Along the Watchtowers, it changed the way you look at the world. For me, it did. So Hendrix is right there. Albert King is right there. Those are the guys.
He even changed it for Bob Dylan, who wrote that song. He said, "Yeah, I wrote it, but Hendrix owned it," right?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's the beauty of Bob Dylan. He sold his whole portfolio now of songs because he wanted to cash in on it, and he's very smart. He did write a lot of songs, but I think the best cover, what I said before, the best cover that I can hear in the music business is Hendrix 68 Electric Ladyland doing that cover. It's still one of the best covers ever done, in my opinion.
Can I ask you real quickly on the Dylan thing? What was the musicians' reaction to that around the world? Is that a direction we're going to see a lot of artists going, or were they kind of surprised by the Dylan move?
I think the other artists are starting to look into it now. I see people are starting to cash in because maybe this pandemic, no one really knows how the music business is going to affect, Still, Dylan has a lot of following, but it's not something that the young generation are going to listen to. I just saw that rap today represents about 50% of the music that you hear on radio today, roughly, more or less.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Final rapid fire questions here with Andy Watts. What is the favorite city in the world to play in?
Oh, the favorite city to plug in, it got to be London as far as it goes. It's almost across the pond. I would be in very, very, very tight competition with New York. But London is definitely the place.
In New York, and we're thinking about New York these days. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, shutting down all those restaurants. We hope so many of them can get through.
through a tough winter here coming up. Who is the musician that you were on stage with and you said, you know what, this is a dream come true. I can't believe I'm standing here next to this guy or girl.
Oh, that gotta be Johnny Winter. We had an afternoon together just before he passed, and he put so much. He was so humble. A lot of these guys, the bigger they are, the more humble they are normally. And he was such a gentleman, Texas blues man. Supergroove as a concept, as an instrumental, was inspired by Johnny Winter, Freddie King, Albert Collins, who started out their careers as instrumentalists, and they're all great vocalists. And we spent 4 hours together pre-show too. He blessed my Les Paul with lifetime mojo, put it that way.
That's fantastic. And Andy Watts, when was the moment you know you were going to do this for the rest of your life? Was there one moment where you sat back, maybe after a great show, where you just won the audience over and you said, you know what, I've made it?
You don't make those decisions. Those decisions comes to you because it's a fact. Because once you try to get rid of it, you can't. So the moment you're in it, there's no other option. So you never made that decision. Once you get into this and it's in your system, you cannot fight it, because you fight it, it's going to spend a lot of time being in destructive energies. Better to take that call that you have to be an artist, to create artist, to have people asking questions about what you're doing. That's why I put the rhino on the top of on the album cover. It's from a Tel Aviv neighborhood called Florentine, pretty much like Williamsburg in New York, very hipsters. I put that rhino in because it's a beautiful area with a lot of graffiti on the walls, very artistic. I did it because if it makes people asking questions, I have reached my target. You have to ask, people get asking questions when you're dealing with art.
Beautiful. And we'll end with this one, I think, Andy Watts. You've touched on it a little bit already. What would be your one lasting word of advice? If you want the young musician to take one thing from this interview in a pandemic, what would your one word of advice be to the young musician?
Practice. Just love your instrument. The instrument is a blessing that you have in your hand. Play. And all of the guys that you hear on the radio that you love to hear, they didn't just walk up in the morning and they play like that. They practiced. They broke it. Never stop believing in yourself. And if you keep on playing, you will be rewarded in a time you will not when it comes to you. And further to that, in order to pursue that in these difficult times, don't be proud and don't try to care what other people say because you think you're a failed musician. Take a temporary break, continue what you're doing, go and get yourself another a daytime job to get through this so you can financially solve this. Once you are financially solid, you'll be much more relaxed to create music.
Andy Watts, man, what a pleasure it was talking to you, sir. I really enjoyed it. I hope you did too.
Oh, we had a great time. We were cruising. We were cruising the blues.
Cruising the blues. Be safe there in Tel Aviv through the rest of this pandemic. I hope you and your family are doing okay, and the best to you guys.
I thank you so much for having me. And I hope that anyone listening to this have the time to check out my new album, Super Groove. There's some groovy music on it. Supposed to be.
Happy holidays, sir. Until next time.
Thank you so much. Bye for now.
All right. Well, that was pretty cool. Andy Watts. That was a legendary blues musician. It was really great to have him join the show. I'd obviously never met him before. He's coming to us from Israel. It's nighttime over there. I'm doing this show in the daytime, and a legendary blues musician from Israel plays all over here in the States in non-pandemic times. And I always love getting the opinion of the outlook through the pandemic from these musicians. It's a tough life. He's one of the ones who's made it, but it's cool to see somebody who's, settled in, professional musician, long time career, satisfied. And, not only is he making music, but he's also thinking about those younger songwriters and had some good advice for them as well. So Andy Watts, thank you, sir. Enjoyed it very much. Thank you all. Live at Drew's house, another edition. We'll see you next time. All right. Bye-bye now.